You like that? Feels a little bit better.
Oh,
it feels a little bit better. We're gonna let this music roll, man.
Let the music roll. That sound.
It's something sweeter when it's the heat. I don't know. I'm loving it. But guys, welcome back into Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Show. I am your host, Rob Haytan, and joined with me is my co-host Nick Franco. Joining us shortly is Ian Angelo. Guys, the Boston Celtics defeat the Miami Heat in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals at home, 118-84. Jaylen Brown and Derek White led the way. They had 25 points each, respectfully. Franco, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Great vibes all around. But, you know, obviously we're going to check into your initial thoughts and reactions and takeaways. But this one feels sweet, and we're going to get into why it feels sweet shortly. But give me your thoughts, reactions, your initial thoughts, takeaways, what you got.
This game couldn't have been done in a better fashion than it was. Miami was playing their same old basketball. Tonight, they were egregious with their fouling on the Boston Celtics tonight. Almost it was to a point where it was feeling a little too rough. And that's what you're going to expect when you're playing against Miami Heat, who is on their back heels. And usually in past history, the Celtics haven't been able to finish that off when they have that team against the ropes and get that knockout blow. The Celtics were able to connect with that left hook tonight and finish off the Miami Heat. The efficiency that we saw from Derek White was amazing from the floor, shooting 8 for 13. And Jaylen Brown's tenacious attack on the rim was the game changer in tonight's game. And I would also credit it to the team's new, almost, it feels new. That might be one of the things that Joe Mazzulla was saying was hitting the bag of ball trick was the mismatch ball movement, is passing the ball until that mismatch is found, and they executed and were able to take advantage of that all night.
Well, that is what you call adjusting, right? That is a prime example of Joe Mazzulla understanding and adapting on the fly, because we saw the Celtics try to mismatch hunt in Game 2, and we saw how that went over for them offensively. It was the only game of the series where they didn't crack 100 points, or they did, but barely, 101. So my initial thoughts was it was a flawless execution. Boston played at Boston's pace. They didn't allow Miami to dictate anything they were doing. None of Miami's cheap shots, foul, like none of that interfered with who the Boston Celtics were tonight. And I think that was a big reason as to why the Celtics were able to do what they did. They played Celtics basketball, which is something that Finn from the Celtics Insiders came on here after Game 2 and said that the Boston can't do that consistently against Miami. Boston did that, and they did that for 48 minutes. So I'm very, very impressed from what I saw from the Boston Celtics tonight. And I will say, what's most impressive to me, Franco, and I'm going to be a broken record about this all post-game show, the fact that the Boston Celtics finally closed it out, right? They finally took advantage of the opportunity and were able to close out a must-win game, not really. They were able to close out a closeout game at home. They didn't allow Miami to extend the series. They didn't give Miami any hope. They from the tip were just off and running. And I think, that's what gives me the comfortable feeling about this Celtics team, is that's what we've been asking for from the Boston Celtics, what we saw tonight for how many years now? I mean, countless times, the Boston Celtics were at home with an opportunity to advance to the next round, and they were unable to do it. Almost honestly, in every single round, it feels like since the 2021 season. So tonight, I mean, that was important, and just how exactly important is that for these guys, Franco, when you look at the Kristaps Porzingis injury, and how important it was to give these guys that extra time off before their next round.
Well, now look at their situation. We're looking at we have 5 days off pretty much, and the Celtics are gonna be able to watch their game comfortably of who their next matchup is gonna be. Who knows, possibly watch 2 games if Orlando pulls it out against Cleveland. And that's gonna be a huge advantage, and that hasn't been such a luxury that the Celtics have been able to take advantage of in past years. Last year, we went extra round with the Atlanta Hawks. We were able to get through Kyrie the year before that, but especially with this roster now, it's all about keeping this team as healthy and ready to go as possible. It getting these series done as not as a cocky way of saying it, but getting these series done as quick as possible and getting through the challenges and humps just to make the transition smoother so they can focus on what their major goal is.
Right. And again, that's what championship teams do. They execute in the games that you wouldn't necessarily think matter. 3-1 at home, a lot of teams think, all right, we got this. It's comfortable. And Boston, I mean, you saw it from the jump. Like I said, the look in their eye, how they presented themselves, their body language, their game plan, their focus was all on key tonight. And, you could so tell, especially with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that they were done with this whole Miami Heat and Boston Celtics, series. You could just tell that they were over it. They didn't want to, they didn't want to see the Heat again. They didn't want to have to fly back to Miami. They didn't want to deal with any extra time against any of those Miami Heat antics. And, that is what the Celtics needed to do. And that's what they did. So, again, you can't stress enough with these guys how important that was. But let's talk about a certain someone. Let's go right into the player of the game, because in his post game interview with Chris Haynes last game in Game 4, something Derek White said that he finds himself getting comfortable after a good game, and he cannot let that happen. He needs to roll over and play another great game. What happened tonight? Derek White, he is your player of the game tonight. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, added on 2 assists, 8 of 13 from behind the arc, 8 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 10 from behind the arc. When you look at Derek White, Franco, this is supposed to be your 4th or 5th option on this team. Just how huge is it to have a guy like Derek White being able to put up performances like he did in games 4 and 5?
I mean, tonight it was just a completely different dimension to the Celtics rotation. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is Jason Tatum didn't take a shot within the first 6 minutes of the game.
Right.
And that was after 13 attempts, and the Celtics made 8 of them. And the thing is that just shows the versatility of this offense. But when you have Derek White shooting at a consistent rate like this and being that off-ball threat, what he was doing tonight on offense was, I not to use this comparison, but it was almost like a Curry-like movement for off ball, getting to the open spots while Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum created the opportunities for him to get those efficient shots and get those open looks so he can only miss 5 shots from the 3-point range. And the
He's
fact
the
that he was
ultimate
also
luxury.
able to, yeah, also able to attack the rim and be that ball handler for the team. It's just been a huge benefactor for this team, and Miami Heat fans are probably throwing darts at a dartboard with his face on it.
I mean, yeah, he's the ultimate role player. I mean, this is a guy that, you talk about Brad Stevens win executive of the year. I know this Derek White move was a couple years ago, but this is just a prime example of, we were able to get Derek White for Aaron Neesmith, or Romeo Langford and Josh Richardson, right? Who Langford, I believe, is out of the league, and Jay Rich is on Miami, actually unable to play with an injury. So, to have Derek White on this roster and for him to be able to kind of just always boost these guys, it's never Derek White's play that's a downfall. He is always contributing some aspect of the game that is positive. And tonight he did it scoring. And last game he did it with his 38 points and 3 blocks. Like, there's always something with Derek White. And he is a guy that you can count on. And he's a guy that bounces back after every poor performance that he does have shooting the ball. You can always count on him to get back. Tonight he was, nearly perfect in every aspect of the game. Anytime it felt like the Celtics offense went dry tonight, Franco, it was like, oh, there's Derek White's big three. Oh, there's Derek White's, attack to the rim. So, excuse me, but I mean, he was perfect. And there's no team in the NBA that their best player can take 9 shots and they can win by 30. Jason Tatum took 9 shots. He scored 16 points, grabbed 12 rebounds tonight, Franco, but he only took 9 jump shots. That is a player who averaged 30 points per game last season, 27 points per game in the regular season this season, right? Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I mean, this guy has countless big games, and he has the luxury, right, to have a night where he is just playing within the flow of the offense, right? And Derek White is a guy that gives Jason Tatum that luxury. So, obviously, when you look at JT's game tonight, doesn't jump off the page, but you kind of see, where his head was at, with the rebounding category, right? 12 rebounds, only took 9 shots, wasn't forcing much, was being aggressive. How, unique and important is it that your superstar player, your max contract guy, is okay with, in a game up 3-1 against his rival, to understand that his teammates are going? How important is that, Franco?
I mean, I don't think we would have seen as big of a win as we did tonight if Jason Tatum played in any other fashion. Obviously, if he was putting up his field goals, putting up 20 shots tonight, we wouldn't be seeing Jaylen Brown and Derek White have these moments. And what he was able to do is find his game in other ways. He had a plus 35 tonight on the floor and 12 rebounds, which was huge. He was all over the place on the defensive end, was usually matched up against one of the wings and was taking away those off ball options. And I think what we're seeing from him is him knowing when he needs to play superhero and put on his cape and get those buckets for the team.
Right.
But if there some points when he can start.
Ian,
Yeah.
how are we doing? How are we feeling? We just, honestly, it was perfect timing. I think we just lost Franco with his internet.
Oh, geez.
But take the floor, honestly. I'm gonna let you speak your mind.
Hey, I don't smoke, but we're all smoking that Miami Heat pack tonight. That was an ass whooping.
Yes, sir.
Belt to ass. That was how you get rid of that team on the home floor. They had the fluke shooting game in game 2. Doesn't matter. We wanted to win the game at home anyway. And I mean, hey, that's what happens. That's why. Hey, they wanted Boston. They were the ones
Right.
that said they wanted Boston. So
Right.
they got him.
I mean, it was perfect in my opinion. It was the perfect way to get rid of these guys. It was at home. Really, the sweep would have been a little bit tastier in my opinion. It would have been a little bit nicer.
Nah, it couldn't be a sweep. Come on now. We
but
gotta
yeah,
at home.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they played flawless tonight. I mean, they did so much right. Defensively, they were aggressive. I mean, offensively, they were getting whatever they wanted. That offense finally broke free of that Miami Heat defense that, was just has been so pesky and annoying. But I mean, for me, something Franco and I were talking about before is, Wi-Fi crashed on us, was Jason Tatum, and how the luxury that he has to only take 9 shots, but still make a huge impact on the game, right? And you saw him tonight, he didn't put himself in front of anything else. He knew exactly what needed to be done. Something I asked Franco that I kind of, am interested to hear what you have to say about that is how unique is that to have that from your superstar?
It's kind of crazy. I mean, it also talks to the testament of how good the depth of the Celtics is.
Right.
That Jason Tatum can have 16 points and the Celtics still blow the Miami Heat out of the water, like, for nothing. But, like, that's the thing with Jason Tatum is that, like, he doesn't need to drop 50 every night. He doesn't need to drop 30 every night. Like, he's done that before. And obviously it hasn't worked because they haven't won a championship yet. So the fact that he has embraced this team basketball, type of role, and honestly, he's doing everything that he needs to do. He only took 9 shots tonight. If you would have told me that Jason Tatum only took 9 shots, I would have told you the Celtics would have lost the game. Right. But no. Jason Tatum has become the best version of himself when he's getting everybody involved. And sure, you want to call him a role player, you want to call him he's the best role player in the league. How about that? But I don't know.
I will say
it doesn't matter. Not many superstars can play the way the team basketball that he plays.
And no role players getting double teamed as much as he's been double teamed. Right. And it's like, Tatum, I feel like that's the growth. Tatum could have scored 30 points on the Miami Heat, right? He might take some bad shots, but he'll get his 30 if he wanted to. But what he's kind of understood now with like the progress and the evolution of Jason Tatum is that why am I going to make this thing harder on me? They're double teaming me. His IQ has skyrocketed over the past 2 years. He is able to hit the right guy. He's able to get the ball being swung, get rotations happening, get cuts going. I mean, he has complete control over the offense. And, that's Miami. I mean, what do we say? Miami's game plan is to, make Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown turn the ball over. And when they're not doing that, the Heat have no chance. So, JT was huge. And then talk about JT and JB. JB was awesome tonight. I mean, he was absolutely taking Tyler Hero to school. And I thought, we were matchup hunting in game 5 tonight, which is similar to what we did in game 2. But I feel like the difference, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, the difference between game 5s and game 2s matchup hunting was that we were getting the ball into their spots and it wasn't just isolation.
Right. And what they were doing is they were feeding the ball around until that matchup that they found in the game 2 isolations popped up again. When the ball was moving, it started in the first quarter. Miami was able to keep it close throughout the first 6, and then Boston was able to start a stretch just because of their ball movement. And seeing everyone get involved the way that they did, it was a much more spread out shot chart than we expected. And they were also able to, the ball is moving when you have Sam Hauser shooting 5 for 8 from the 3-point line in a playoff game. If Sam Hauser is getting those types of shots, that means the ball is moving around, and that might have came later on in the game. That might have padded that stat a little bit, but I think that there's so much of talent on this roster that getting the ball to everyone is key for them to keep on moving forward.
For real. I mean, this was just huge. This was a game that you needed. You needed everybody to step up, and it looked like everybody was, playing their role. Shout out Luke Cornett, man. He was going insane, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. I was calling him the Bam Adebayo stopper after a while because, I mean, I've never seen Luke Cornett act like this before. It's like that old John Wall, Bradley Beal meme. I ain't never, ever seen you act like this before. Like, he was absolutely going insane in this game. And, like, he kind of shifted the momentum in a way because Bam was starting to figure Al Horford out. And then Cornett came into the game and just automatically locked up Adebayo. And then the Heat were pretty much done from there. So I'm just happy it's over and we don't have to worry about the Miami Heat anymore.
All right, it felt like such like an unnecessarily annoying series, right? Where it was just like we knew we were going to beat them, and the Heat were just so frustrating to play against, and you could just tell their physicality. They knew they were going to lose, but they figured if we're going to lose, we're going down swinging. And getting back onto the Luke Cornett point, though, when people hear us Celtics fans say we're okay without Kristaps, it's because we have watched what these guys, these bench players, can do for us. We watched 82 games of what Cornett and what Tillman can present to the game. And Cornett did a better job on Bam Adebayo than Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis did all series long. He made him uncomfortable. He used his size, he used his length to really alter his shots. And I mean, like, come on, man. Like, that's what you want out of your backup or your third string big man. Go in there and use your size. He did that to a T. He rebounded the ball well. He hit Jaylen Brown on the little zone dump down feed. Miami tried to break out the zone on Cornett, and the Celtics broke it instantly. And Luke was the center man doing the whole thing. And I was very impressed with that. So, moving forward for the Celtics, obviously, I mean, it's kind of crazy. We got to sit back and watch the finale to the Cavs and Magic series, because, before we can talk about next round, we kind of have to wait and see what happens there. But I mean, in regards to tonight, it was just flawless. Like, if you were to ask me to sum up tonight's game in one word, that's what I'd give you. I'd give you flawless, because it was truly perfect. And, someone I want to talk about next, because it feels like I got to go down the line and give everyone their flowers tonight. Jrue Holiday. This is a guy, first two games, guys, it was rough. It was really rough for this guy. Next three games, the dude turned it on. 10 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. He was picking up from full court. There was like 8 minutes left. He was still in the game with the bench warmers, or the bench guys. I shouldn't call them bench warmers. That's disrespectful to those guys. But he was still in, and he was like hustling. He was closing out to contest. He was hustling. Like, I was loving it. So give me some Jrue Holiday games 1 and 2 versus games 3 and 5. What was the difference with Jrue?
Hey, I told you. You want me to go? All right, I'll go. I told you at the end of the live stream yesterday, I told you shout out Jrue Holiday for having a good game, and it looked like he was starting to find his shot a little bit tonight. I mean, there was that thing they showed like right before the game started, like the net rating with him on and off the floor. Celtics were like a plus 50 with him on the floor, and like a minus, like, I don't know, whatever hell it was. I think it was like a -8 with him off. This is how important Jrue Holiday is to this team. Like, you can tell me all you want. Like, yeah, okay, Jrue Holiday had a bad shooting performance. Jrue Holiday's not scoring points. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Jrue Holiday is here for one thing. He is here to play defense. And he absolutely just had Tyler Hero on locks this entire series. It felt like, outside of game 2, obviously. But the other thing with him between games, the first 2 games and then the rest of the series, is he wasn't trying to, he was just, he was getting his shot. He wasn't trying to attack. He wasn't trying to force things.
Right.
And that's pretty much how important it was. And once Jrue Holiday was just okay with finding his spots, I mean, he played great tonight, and he's starting to hit his threes now. So that could be a good sign moving forward against a team like the Cavaliers or the Magic.
Right before tip-off, they showed a graphic of Jrue Holiday with the team's plus minus with him on the court and him off the court. They were plus 50 on the dot with him on the court throughout the series, and with him off the court, they were -6.
Ooh.
So that just shows his talent, and this is exactly when we wanted Jrue Holiday. This is when we were looking forward to him, and look forward to an upcoming series for him to make those outstanding plays that Marcus Smart used to make for us, those diving plays. There was one in the first quarter, I believe, that it really kept the game in, kind of kickstarted the Celtics into making that their game and stopped Miami from being that pain for the Boston Celtics. Was when he dived into the crowd for a save ball, and Jaylen Brown was able to catch it over pretty much 3 players. And was able to finish the play. But those are the types of plays.
Did we lose him? Did his Wi-Fi
Oh,
go?
jeez.
Oh no, we're good. We got him. Yeah, but I mean, Drew is no, you're good. We got you. Drew is, in my opinion, the glue guy. Obviously Derek White. They're like two peas in a pod, in my opinion, because he's not going to have jump off the paper numbers. Hardly ever. I mean, I don't even know if he's had a 30-point game. I don't think he had a 30-point game all season with us. I don't even know if he had over 25. But his impact is like unmatched. I mean, you take Drew Holiday off this team, and defensively, this team goes into the ground because of just he is the backbone of what these guys can do defensively. And you ask me the difference between games 1 and 2 and in the rest of the series was with Drew Holiday. It shows you in the defensive or in the Miami Heat point total. They didn't crack. What was it? They didn't crack 93 plus points in any of games 3, 4, and 5. And that shows you Drew Holiday had good games in 3, 4, and 5. In the Miami Heat's offense started to collapse in games 3, 4, and 5. It shows you that when Drew Holiday is there and, is in the game and is playing hard and is doing everything he needs to do, this is what happens. Defensively, the Celtics are a wagon. And, we saw it tonight. So, Drew was phenomenal. And, obviously, guys, without Kristaps. The report today via Chris Haynes was the Celtics are expected to be without Kristaps Porzingis for the entire second round. They're hoping and they're expecting him to be back by the start of the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, he will undergo an evaluation in a week from today, so that puts us in probably around game 2 of the second round. This injury, the timetable is, I believe, 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 weeks. And he could, again, will miss several games. Now, you saw what Boston did tonight against the Heat without Kristaps. We kind of touched on it last game's post game show, but is Kristaps key to the Boston Celtics getting to the finals?
I think he's key to the Boston Celtics winning the finals if they get there. I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but the Eastern Conference is not very good compared to the Western Conference. So, I mean, we just saw what the Celtics did without him. And obviously Cleveland and Orlando are different teams. And if they do end up facing Cleveland, they got Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And even though Jared Allen's not healthy either, but, that could cause potential issue. But honestly, with the way that the Celtics have been playing, and I trust Al Horford with, being the starting center for this round. We won plenty of playoff series with Al Horford as our starting center. So,
right.
I mean, I'm not going to say the Celtics don't need Porzingis, but I think it's fine. The Celtics just got to get out of the second round. Once they make the Eastern Conference Finals, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I think the second round and him taking his time, being able to come back at 100% is the major need for the Boston Celtics. There is absolutely no need to rush him back, even if the round 2 series starts to get a little chippy. If need be, go to a game 6, game 7.
Right.
I think that just making sure he is available and ready for long-term health is the major factor, because it seemed like there were multiple things bothering him at once, as we knew we were signing up for when we traded for him
part
in
of
the
contract.
offseason. Yeah. And I think just using him as almost that secret weapon X, but from what we saw with the team tonight, it kind of seems like the ball moves a little bit more when Kristaps is off the court.
I was going to say that because this is no disrespect to Kristaps, because I understand how important he is to this team. And again, he is the ultimate mismatch for us, but it kind of felt like at times in this series, and it makes sense against Miami, because if you go ISO heavy against Miami, you're absolutely going to get, suffocated. But it felt like in times in this series against Miami Heat, the Celtics were just stagnant and terrible with Kristaps on the court. And I don't know if it's because they were super reliant on him and the game plan was, so predicated and so focused on getting Kristaps the matchup that they kind of lost focus on what they needed to do as a team offensively. But I see what they do tonight without Kristaps, and it almost feels like this particular matchup against the Heat, it was better off that Kristaps wasn't on the floor. Now, I will say, Kristaps takes the Celtics from potentially being the best team in the league to no doubt, no question, being the best team in the league. And so I agree what Ian said. He is so important for what the Celtics are trying to accomplish in terms of winning a championship. He is not super important in a sense of the Celtics getting to the finals, because when you look at the potential path, Cleveland or Orlando, now we're going to do a deep dive into that series when we actually get there, but I don't know about you guys. I don't think I see either team grab more than a game on us, quite frankly. I don't.
I mean,
there should
I would
be.
hope.
Right? I mean, realistically, Orlando, I think their downfall against us, I quite frankly think Orlando is a better team than Cleveland. I think their downfall is their youth. I think
their
young.
biggest problem is the fact that both of these teams do not know how to offense. Like,
right? Yeah, like
watching. I mean, these I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything, but watching the two of them try to do offense is like watching somebody just smash two rocks together and hope they make a fire. Like, that's literally what it's like watching them try to execute offense. And that's credit to both of their defenses, as they both have very strong defenses, but they're kind of built like the 2022 Celtics in a way where it's like they're so reliant on one or two players on offense, where like if they're not having a good game, then there's only so much their defense can do to carry them.
Right. And I think with Kristaps being out, it does put the focus on the bench a lot. It highlights them a lot. You're putting a lot of faith and trust into those guys, particularly Pritchard and Hauser, because again, Cornette offensively doesn't demand too much of a need from really an offensive standpoint. Defensively, you just need them to, be in the right spots defensively, to rebound the ball, and then to, be that pick and roll threat, that roller to the rim, that dive guy, be in the dunker spot, do all that stuff. But, for me, I don't want to over, exaggerate this, but I think we sweep Orlando, and I think we beat Cleveland in 5. And then, in the Eastern Conference Finals, whoever we get, I think New York can maybe grab 2 games on us. But honestly, I don't even know. I don't know. Well, wait and see. But the Eastern Conference is so open. And honestly, I know this sounds weird, but it's almost kind of a sigh of relief that Kristaps got hurt when he did. Because you kind of had this feeling in the back of your mind that it was going to happen at some point, and you never want to see a guy get hurt, right? You never want to see Kristaps go down.
Too plain of a regular season,
right? But you had this feeling that, all right, something was going to pop up with this guy, right? It was going to be some injury at some part of his body that just kind of, held him out for a while. I think it could be a blessing in disguise that it happened so early on. Because again, Celtics are going to have a lot of time to rest up here, right? You figure if this series against Cleveland, goes 7, the Celtics and Kristaps will have a whole week into the injury before they even play game 1. And say if Boston handles that series in 5, and the other, so there's opportunity for Kristaps to take some time and get ready. And I think what's important when you talk about Kristaps, guys, is that he is coming back at 100%. Or honestly, he's coming back at 101%, right? Like, they are putting him back onto the floor, and he is absolutely ready to go. There is no question marks. There is no risks. There is no anything. When you bring Kristaps back, the guy is no doubt ready to go.
Facts. And that's... Sorry. You can go, Franco.
Yeah. I think that keeping him ball wrapped during this series is pretty ideal. I think Orlando and Cleveland could possibly pose as more of a threat than Miami did throughout this first round series.
Right.
Just looking at the players that they still have healthy, and one thing that I will credit to Orlando is their depth. I think that they would be able to run the court the entire game and be able to have fresh legs on the court as well. It's just a matter of if their younger talent would be able to match up with the Boston Celtics, and I think Cleveland would be an interesting series as to see how they match up against Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and just being able to lock down those that guard heavy team. And obvi- it's good that well, not good, but Jared Allen would have been a major threat for the Boston Celtics if he were to be
Well,
healthy as
that's the
well
thing.
as in the
And
paint.
and you don't even know that's the tough part that kind of we find ourselves in with this show right now is that we have no clue who we're gonna see. It's like
Kind of feels like it was the last time we before the Heat series.
right? I know. And I just really, I mean, in reality, it's just a big sigh of relief, I think, for every Celtics fan. With Jimmy or without Jimmy, that team for some reason just gives the Celtics so much trouble and such a hard time. So to get them past us as early as they did and how they handled them has to be a big momentum boost for these guys, for the locker room. Again, I want to talk about Joe Maz. The dude showed up for games 4 and 5. The dude showed up because the game 5 game plan was impeccable. It was flawless. And I'm going to give Joe Mazzulla all the credit in the world. And Xavier is lucky he's not here tonight, right? Because I know he wouldn't take it. And I've said my fair share on my thoughts on Joe Mazzulla, but I am so happy that he can shut me up this time because man, oh man, am I rooting for him? But tonight, he outcoached Eric Spoelstra. And, I know Spo's not working with much, but still, the game plan was way better than Miami's, and I give a lot of that credit to Joe Mazzulla.
You know what? Shout out Joe Maz.
Shout out Joe Maz.
We can't neglect the fact that he still has to do it 3 more times, but 3 more times, hopefully. But the fact that he was finally able to get one on Spoelstra, and it felt like this entire season he was able to get it past Spoelstra, not even just this series. I mean, the Celtics lost 1 game to Miami this entire season, including the regular season. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. He just had a great series. He called timeouts when they needed to be called.
Right.
He was able to get the guys going. He wasn't, too low when they lost game 2. He basically said, all right, just prove to them that you're the Boston Celtics and show them why you're the best team in the NBA this season. And they did that.
And you know what? Which is the big difference from Joe Mazzulla this year versus Joe Mazzulla last year? Each game looked different from the Boston Celtics. And that's what the playoffs are supposed to be. The playoffs are a chess match, man. You make a move based off what your opponent does. And last year at times against the Heat, it felt like every game was kind of the same thing from Boston. There were defensive schemes looked the same. Their offensive set looks the same. Their execution was the same. In this series, game 1, game 3, game 4, and game 5 were all won in respectfully different ways. And, you saw the Celtics win against the Heat when their shot wasn't falling. You saw them win when it was falling. You saw them hang their hats on defense. I mean, they really were winning games in a whole different bunch of ways. And Joe Maz was coaching the games differently, and the game plan was different. So, big ups to Joe Maz because the dude absolutely put on a coaching clinic, in my opinion. I mean, I was a big fan of Joe Maz this series, Franco.
I think he did a fantastic job leading this team. I think this is when he's going to strive the most, is being able to just make sure this team doesn't really need too much coaching adjustments that this team is going to be able to win their games against the talent that are going against. There shouldn't be too much going into get the X and O's of these games, especially against my Miami team who is so injured. I think the job of being able to manage it and get them through these series and being able to keep that motivation within these guys through and through is where Joe Mazzulla is going to really shine. I feel a complete buy-in from the entire roster into
Right.
Joe Mazzulla's uh, way of thinking and way of trying to get this team to a championship. And I think that he has the whole locker room behind his back.
I am very, very pleased with what I saw from the whole team this series. Could have been a sweep. You figured Miami, they got hot one game, tip your cap. All right, on to game 3. Boston showed out in the next 3 and got, I mean, they won a game 5 at home. It's different, right?
Which was something we didn't do the last 2 years. So
literally, I mean,
I'll break out the button.
Yeah, there it is. There's the applause because it's. I mean, gosh, it feels like forever, and it was just executed perfectly. And
well, you see, last year's team probably would have lost this game,
right? No doubt,
because they did lose this game last year. They lost to the Hawks last year.
Think about that. That's crazy.
Just shows how different this team really is. And
I
honestly,
will say though, my fault. You go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it all goes back to Brad Stevens for noticing that the team had a problem. And as much as we love Marcus Smart and Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon, right now I'm loving having Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So and having Derek White as our starting point guard because
absolutely
he is the greatest player of all time.
Something I will say, if I could change one thing that happened in this series, I would have really liked it if Miami didn't win one at home. Right. I really nitpicking here, but if you're looking at this series and what is something I would have changed, I would have probably changed the fact that Miami won game 3 in Miami when they got hot instead of game 2. Mind you, Boston went down to Miami and stole both of them. So that's just as impressive to me. But I think with this team in particular, we're just looking for them to win at home at a high rate because they have been able to do that. Other than that, I mean, it was a great series. And guys, now it's just wait and see. Tomorrow night, you got the Cavs Magic. If Orlando wins, there'll be a game 7. If Cleveland wins, the Celtics and the Cavs will play on Sunday, May 5th, I believe. It will be game 1. So again, guys, the Celtics, they advance to the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, 118-84 tonight in game 5 for the closeout win against the Miami Heat. They win 4-1. Jaylen Brown and Derek White were your leading scorers tonight, 25 apiece. Drew Holiday gave us 10 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds, and Jason Tatum gave us 16 points on only 9 shots. Guys, I'm Rob. Next to me is Franco, and all the way to the right of me is my boy Ian Angelo. After final buzzer, guys, come right back here for Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Show. We're going to have you covered with the podcast and everything series preview throughout the weekend. Guys, cue the music. Until next time, you know the dad. Go Celtics.